Welcome to History Unplugged, where we dig into the weird, uncomfortable, and strangely hilarious corners of the past. We turn history into stories you can actually picture, and maybe even fall asleep to. From golden toilet seats to scandalous kings, if it happened, we'll tell you about it. No boring textbooks allowed. You wake up, and your first thought is, wow, that's a lot of gold. The bed frame? Gold. The trim around the mirror? Gold. Even the handle on the chamber pot glints like it belongs in a museum exhibit. And then there's the toilet seat. Solid gold. It's so shiny it almost hurts to look at. But here's the kicker. It's cold. Not, oh, it's a little chilly cold, but you just sat down on the surface of the moon, cold. Congratulations! You've arrived in the late 19th century, smack in the middle of America's Gilded Age, where luxury is loud, wealth is obscene, and subtlety was apparently illegal. It's sometime in the 1890s, though you're not entirely sure of the exact date. The calendar on your wall shows a portrait of some stern-looking president you vaguely remember from a high school history test. Outside your massive bedroom window, you can hear the clop of horses and the metallic clang of trolley cars. The air drifting in isn't exactly fresh, more like a smoky stew of coal dust, manure, and whatever the factory down the street is belching out today. The city is a living, breathing organism. And like most living things, it smells a little weird. You sit up, rubbing your eyes, and a butler glides into the room with the kind of eerie silence that only someone born into service can master. He's holding a silver tray with a note. It's from your business partner, warning you about a potential strike at one of your steel mills. Apparently, workers don't like losing fingers in machinery. Who knew? You set the note aside because right now you have more pressing concerns, like the fact that your pajamas weigh about 10 pounds and are made of some sort of itchy imported fabric that probably cost more than your first car. Your home, no, your estate, is a masterpiece of excess. Chandeliers dangle from ceilings so high they could double as small climbing walls. The carpets are thick enough to lose a shoe in. Even the wallpaper has gold leaf woven into it, which makes you wonder who was the first guy to look at a wall and think, you know what this needs? Precious metals. The newspapers downstairs are likely running stories about you. Some will call you a visionary, a captain of industry who built an empire from nothing. Others will call you a parasite, a robber baron, who squeezes every last drop from the working class while sipping champagne in your ballroom. Both might be true. That is the thing about being one of the richest people in the country during the Gilded Age. Your public image swings between genius and villain depending on who's writing the headline. You lean back in your gold-accented chair, listening to the muffled chaos of the city waking up. Somewhere down there, people are sweating in factories, kids are shoveling coal into furnaces, and street vendors are hawking bread to passers-by. And up here, you're sipping imported coffee, contemplating whether to spend the afternoon negotiating a massive railroad deal, or just ordering another ridiculous piece of furniture from Europe. After all, you're not just rich, you're Gilded Age rich. You don't technically have a job in the way normal people mean it. You don't punch in, you don't stand in line for lunch, and you definitely don't ask anyone for days off. Your workday starts when you feel like rolling out of bed, usually sometime after your personal chef has already been sweating in the kitchen for hours. Still, running a Gilded Age empire isn't as simple as putting your feet up and counting your gold coins like some cartoon miser. It is a constant balancing act between keeping your fortune growing and making sure the angry mob doesn't show up with pitchforks. The morning begins with breakfast on a table so long you need an actual servant to pass the salt. The spread is absurd. poached eggs from your own estate's hens, bread baked with imported European flour, and coffee that traveled halfway across the world just so you can complain that it's not hot enough. You eat while reading telegrams, some from senators you're friendly with, others from competitors trying to outmaneuver you. One message might be a warning about tariffs. Another could be an opportunity to buy a struggling railroad. To you, that's just a Tuesday. Then there's the endless string of business meetings. You don't go to an office. People come to you. Bankers, lawyers, industrial engineers, all parading into your mahogany-paneled study with charts, ledgers, and bad news about labor costs. They talk about efficiency in the factories, which is code for find a way to make workers do twice as much for the same pay. There's no OSHA breathing down your neck, no minimum wage to worry about. Your profit margins are basically limited only by how far you're willing to push people before they break. And they do break. Accidents happen constantly. Mangled hands, crushed feet, lungs full of coal dust. But in this era, that's just considered the cost of doing business. If a worker can't do the job anymore, they're replaced within hours. It's cold, it's brutal, and yet, it's exactly how every one of your billionaire buddies operates. You might toss a bit of charity money toward a local hospital. But let's be honest, you're not losing sleep over it. By midday, you've already made decisions that could change the course of thousands of lives, all before your second cup of coffee. After lunch, an equally excessive affair, of course, you might tour one of your properties. Not because you want to see the workers, but because you like watching your machines in action. They're loud, dangerous, and impressive, kind of like your entire business strategy. When you get home, your staff has drawn you a bath in a clawfoot tub big enough to drown a horse. You soak thinking about the next big deal you're going to close. In your world, money never sleeps, and neither does the pressure to keep making more of it. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a 24/7 performance, where you're the star, the villain, and the one holding the purse strings. Your world is full of people, but not the kind you'd call friends in the modern sense. Everyone you deal with has an angle. Your butler, Mr. Phelps, has been in your service for decades and knows more secrets about you than your own family. He can tell exactly how your day is going by the way you set down your teacup. He's the quiet type, but you know if he ever decided to open his mouth in the wrong company, the newspapers would have a field day. He's loyal. For now. Then there are your business partners, or more accurately, your rivals who you occasionally need. John D. Rockefeller might invite you to dinner one night, smiling like your old friends, but you both know you're mentally calculating how to bleed the other dry. Andrew Carnegie, charming in public, ruthless in private. You trade pleasantries at banquets while plotting behind closed doors. Deals in your world are handshakes dipped in arsenic. Polite, cordial, but potentially lethal. Society itself is its own battlefield. The wives of other magnates invite you to lavish dinners where the conversation feels like a fencing match. One hostess brags about her son's Harvard education, while her pearls catch the gaslight just so. Another drops hints about the authentic European art she's imported, as if owning a Monet will somehow make her less nouveau riche. The women in these rooms wield gossip like a weapon. A single rumor placed in the right ear can tarnish a reputation faster than a market crash. And then there's the press. Some journalists are in your pocket, happy to paint you as a brilliant industrialist who's practically saving America. Others are waiting to catch you in a scandal. And in this era, scandals are everywhere. One bad investment, one messy labor dispute, and the headlines will have you looking like a cartoon villain twirling his mustache while tying damsels to railroad tracks. You also can't forget the people who work for you, the thousands in your factories and mills. Most you'll never meet, but they know your name. To them, you're both the reason they have a job and the reason their job might kill them. In the streets, you might overhear their complaints. Wages too low, Hours too long, conditions too dangerous. You can dismiss it with a smirk when you're in your parlor, but if the unrest grows, it has a way of showing up at your doorstep. Every interaction in your life has stakes. The dinner parties are negotiations in disguise. The poker games with fellow tycoons are just business meetings with whiskey and cigars. Even your conversations with your staff are calculated. They see everything, hear everything, and can decide whether you're the benevolent employer or the cruel taskmaster. You can't fully trust anyone, but you can't afford to be alone either. That's the social tightrope of the Gilded Age elite. Everyone's smiling, but everyone's also sharpening a knife. Night in the Gilded Age isn't peaceful. It's just a different kind of loud. By day, the city clatters with trolley bells, street vendors, and the endless pounding of factory machinery. By night, those sounds fade into something sharper. The metallic click of carriage wheels on cobblestone, the distant shouts of drunks staggering out of saloons, and the occasional gunshot echoing down an alley. Even from the safety of your estate, you can feel it. The city has a pulse, and after dark, it beats faster. You've got Pinkerton agents patrolling the grounds, their silhouettes moving against the faint glow of the gas lamps. They're supposed to keep you safe from thieves and troublemakers, but they're about as subtle as a brass band. They carry rifles and wear expressions that scream overcompensating. But you know full well that if a mob came for you, they'd be outnumbered in minutes. And mobs are always a possibility. Labor strikes can turn violent without warning. Angry workers with nothing to lose and everything to prove don't care how many zeros are in your bank account. Inside, your mansion is quiet, but it's not the kind of quiet that makes you feel safe. The walls are thick, but not thick enough to block out the faint, eerie hiss of the gas lights. Shadows stretch long across the marble floors, and the massive portraits of your ancestors seem to watch you wherever you go. You've heard stories. Other tycoons who've woken up to find their carriages vandalized, their gates set on fire. One man you know had to sneak out of town entirely after a strike at his textile mill turned into a full-on riot. Then there's the invisible danger. Disease, typhoid, cholera, influenza. All it takes is one careless servant, one bad batch of water, and suddenly your fortune can't buy you another breath. The wealthiest families in the city might have doctors on call, but medicine in the 1890s is still half science, half guesswork. Sometimes the cure kills you faster than the illness. You try to distract yourself with the trappings of wealth, a glass of brandy in your study, a cigar lit with a match from a silver case, the faint strains of your phonograph playing in the background. But in the back of your mind, you're always aware of the risks. The bigger your empire, the more enemies you collect. It's not just about the money. It's about power, and power is the kind of thing that attracts trouble like moths to a flame. You climb into bed, the gold-plated bed frame gleaming even in the dim light. Outside, the wind rattles the windows, and you can't tell if that sound you just heard was a branch scraping the wall or someone testing the locks. You pull the heavy blankets up to your chin, telling yourself it's just the wind. But in this world, you never really sleep easy. The night always belongs to someone else. Here's the thing about waking up as a Gilded Age billionaire. It asks not just about the absurd wealth, the ridiculous furniture, or the fact that you can eat oysters for breakfast just because you feel like it. It asks about being at the center of a system that runs on inequality like a locomotive runs on coal. You didn't build the era, but you're definitely benefiting from it. And whether you admit it or not, you're also shaping it. Every business decision you make ripples outward, affecting people you'll never meet, in towns you'll never visit, in ways you'll never have to see. You've got more influence than most politicians. With a few telegrams, you can set the price of steel, decide where the railroads go, or make sure a newspaper headline flatters you instead of flays you. You're not just part of the machine, you are the machine. And while you could use that power to improve working conditions, shorten hours, and raise wages, you know what your peers will say if you do. Soft. In this circle, compassion is considered a business liability. Still, the thought nags at you. You've seen the children working in your factories, hands raw from tying knots in endless spools of thread. You've walked past the tenements where whole families are crammed into single rooms, the smell of sewage seeping into the street. You know the truth. The gilded in Gilded Age is just that, a shiny surface hiding the rot underneath. The gold leaf is thin, and it flakes if you look too closely. And yet, here you are, bathing in marble tubs, commissioning custom suits from Paris, and hosting dinners where a single bottle of wine costs more than a laborer's yearly wage. You tell yourself it's just the way things are, that you're not responsible for fixing a system you didn't break. But history has a funny way of remembering people like you, not as individuals, but as symbols of greed or genius, sometimes both. The truth is, being a Gilded Age billionaire is both thrilling and exhausting. You're always on guard, always calculating, always aware that your fortune is balanced on the backs of people who will never see a penny of it. You are playing a high-stakes game where the rules are written by the winners and rewritten whenever it suits them. And the game never ends. A century from now, people will still argue about whether you were a visionary who built America or a robber baron who exploited it. They'll compare you to the billionaires of their own time and wonder if anything has really changed. And maybe that's the real punchline. The names get different, the technology gets shinier, but the hunger for power, the scramble for more, the careful balancing act between public image and private ambition, those things never go out of style. So, if you woke up tomorrow with that kind of power, that kind of wealth, and that kind of choice, would you try to change the world? Or would you just order another golden toilet seat?